Today, look at these look so stupid and I'm so ready to return them. Anyway.
Hello guys. Hey, sorry, Karen.
Today I thought I would introduce you to one of the lesser known fairy tales from the Grimm brothers. You probably haven't heard it before, it's a bit alternative, it's a bit indie, hipster, but you know, that's what .com Productions is all about. It's about introducing you to new things. So this fairy tale is called The Three Here we go. There was once a lazy maiden who did not want to and no matter what her mother said, she refused to. Finally, her mother became so angry and impatient that she her, and her daughter began to cry loudly. Just then, the Queen happened to be driving by, and when she heard the crying, she ordered the carriage to stop, went into the house, and asked the mother why she was her child, but her screams could be heard out on the street. The woman was too ashamed to tell the Queen that her daughter was lazy, and said, "I can't get her to stop. She does nothing but and I'm so poor that I can't provide the." "Well," the Queen replied, "there's nothing I like to hear more than the sound of spinning, and I'm never happier than when I hear the constant of the Let me take your daughter with me to my castle. I've got plenty of and she can as much as she likes." The mother was delighted to give her consent, and the Queen took the maiden with her. After they reached the castle, she led the maiden upstairs to the 3 rooms that were filled with the finest from floor to ceiling. "Now, in this for me," she said, "and if you finish all this, you shall have my oldest son for your husband. It doesn't matter to me that you're poor. You work industrially, and you never stop. That in itself is dowry enough." The maiden was deeply frightened, for she could not have even if she were to live 300 years, and sit there every day from morning till night. Therefore, when she was left alone, she began to weep, and sat there for 3 days without lifting a finger. On the 3rd day the Queen came back to the room, and when she saw that nothing had been she was puzzled. But the maiden made up an excuse and said she had been so tremendously upset about leaving her mother's house that she had been unable to begin working. The Queen accepted this excuse, but upon leaving she said, "Tomorrow you must begin your work for me." When the maiden was alone again, she did not know what to do or where to turn. In her distress, she went over to the window and saw 3 women coming in her direction. The first had a broad flat the second had such a large that it hung down over her and the third had an immense. They stopped in front of her window, looked up and asked the maiden what the matter was. She told them about her predicament, and they offered to help her. "We'll your facts for you in no time at all," they said, "but only if you invite us to your wedding and are not ashamed of us. Moreover, you must call us your cousins, and let us out your table." "With all my heart," she responded. "Just come in and get to work right away." She let the 3 old women in, and cleared a place for them in the first room where they could sit down and begin their One drew out the and began the other wet the and the third twisted it and struck with her finger. Whenever she struck it, the dropped to the ground, and it was almost always most. The male conceded the 3 from the Queen, and every time the Queen came, the maiden showed her such a large amount of that there was no end to the Queen's praise for her. When the first room was empty of they moved on to the second, and then the third, until it too was cleared of. Now the 3 women took their leave, and said to the maiden, "Don't forget what you have promised us. It will determine your good fortune." When the maiden showed the Queen the empty rooms and the large piles of the Queen arranged for the wedding, and the bridegroom was happy to get such a skillful and industrious wife, and gave her tremendous praise. "I have 3 cousins," said the maiden, "and since they've done so many good things for me, I'd like to remember them in my happiness by inviting them to the wedding. Please allow me to do this, and let them sit at our table." The Queen and bridegroom said, "Why, of course we'll allow this." When the feast was just about to begin, the 3 women entered in bizarre costumes, and the bride said, "Welcome, dear cousins."
"Ah," said the bridegroom, "how did you ever come by such ghastly looking friends?"
Then he went to the one with the broad flat and asked, "How did you get such a flat?" "From she answered. "From Next the bridegroom went to the second and asked, "How did you get such?" "From licking," she answered. "From licking." Then he asked the third one, "How did you get such an immense?" "From twisting," she answered. "From twisting." Upon hearing this, the prince was alarmed and said, "Never ever shall my beautiful wife touch a spinning wheel again." Thus she was able to rid herself of the terrible task of spinning flax. And that is the story of the 3 spinners. You dirty rascal. Bye.